Hello. We want to thank you all, if any, for joining us today. This is Sharaka shaping a new Middle East together. We will be beginning at 12:30. Hello, and thank you for joining us online. It seems that we are running a little bit behind today, um, and so we will be starting a little late, but thank you for joining us. We will be beginning shortly. each of you will have a handheld mic. Any color you have a preference for?
Thank you so much.
What's the name of the church? Oh, Unity. Is it the Catholic or?
No, so
For sure it's not Catholic, obviously.
is its own.
Oh, I
So
get it.
it's
Okay.
a
So
little
it's
closer
not
to-
a church.
We're considered a church still, so we're a spiritual center.
Okay,
Titled and
I get it. Okay, that's very interesting.
I'm just going to go in the back and give some quick that will make you comfortable. Right now we have 4 cameras.
Right.
Get on closer.
How many people via Zoom are joining us? Do you know already?
I don't have YouTube. How that grows. We just had another post drop.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome online. If I could have you guys talk into the mics shortly for me.
Did you ask me to say something?
Yeah, if you could just keep talking on the mic you're on.
Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi, guys. Please come closer. منا كنيسة هيدي. منا كنيسة. منا كنيسة. لا هيدا spiritual center. Yeah.
Yep, everyone has a mic on their chair.
منا كنيسة. منا
بس ما
كنيسة.
تقوليش هذا كمان مرة.
لا بالعربي. منا كنيسة.
هاي كنيسة
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to everybody online as well. We're just about to get started. Hi. I'm so glad you're here on this rainy day in San Francisco. It rains about 20 days total in San Francisco. So
We already have 5.
you have 5 of them, right? It's so weird for all of us. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I am delighted to be able to host you and the importance of what you're here for, the importance of what you're about. I'm Ken Daigle. I'm the senior minister here. And we have been around since 1909, which is nothing in religious times.
Can you tell us a couple of words about where we are exactly?
Sure, absolutely. So Unity was started in 1889 in the Midwest. So Unity comes out in what we call in the United States a New Thought religion. It's about the power of the mind to transform our physical world and create. And we look at Scripture, all Scripture, as for the shared truths of all faiths. And although we came out of Christianity, we're not exclusively Christian. So we use wisdom teachings from many different traditions and weave it into a basic set of principles and ideas. And it started as a healing movement in the 1800s before modern medicine even existed. And we were knowing that the mind could heal before the placebo effect was even proven scientifically. So it comes from that lineage, and although it came out of Christianity, we don't look at any scriptures, Christian, Muslim, Hebrew scriptures, or any other, as factual, but more as metaphor and allegory. So we look for the stories of how it affects us today. The scripture's alive for us because it's alive in us. And everyone in all of the scriptures represents some aspect of our personality and our life experience. So this is why I'm so delighted that you're here, given the turmoil in this country, which we've all been experiencing here, and the turmoil in the Mideast. When I got the call from Sarah, I was so delighted to be able to say, yes, we want to have this kind of forum. And we tried every which way to get you here at different times, and this is the one time we could make it. So we're going to record it, and we have some people on live stream who couldn't be here in person. We do also have members all across the world and across the country. We're not exclusively in San Francisco anymore, because COVID really helped us with that. We have members all across the United States. So, yeah. So that's a little bit about Unity, and I'll let you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If this works, great. So I'll start with a quick comment about what Ken, may I call you Ken? Yes. Ken just said. I think, first of all, it's a great honor to be here, and in some ways, how you described this spiritual temple is how we see ourselves. Like instead of having one dogmatic point of view on the world, having a more flexible, reasonable way to analyze. And I think you'll understand it through what we'll share with you today. And more than that, I want to share about what you said about the United States. We came here from the Middle East. Tomorrow, all of us are returning to the Middle East, to Morocco, to Bahrain, to Israel, because we feel that the inner turmoil that is happening in the States also influences us. We want to help you, no matter what your political views are, to understand a bit better what's our vision of how the Middle East should look like and how you can really help us push to that kind of future. And that's the reason why we're basically here. So I think it really connects to exactly what you said. So a couple of words about Sharaka. The giant name was here above a couple of moments ago. Great. So Sharaka basically, first of all, the name. The name is from Arabic. It means partnership. And it's an organization that was established in 2020 while the Abraham Accords were signed. The Abraham Accords, I believe most of you are familiar with them, but they are accords who were signed between the state of Israel and the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, and Bahrain, and another agreement that happened between Israel and Morocco. And it was a very unique peace process because for the first time, the government wanted it to be a real and warm peace. They made the political platform for us to be able to fly to each country, to make business, to do science together, and just to socialize. But the foundations of the agreements were trying to make it more than that. And why am I saying more than that? Because peace doesn't need to be warm. And we have two unfortunate examples. Israel signed two peace agreements decades before the Abraham Accords, with Egypt and Jordan. And those peace agreements aren't warm at all, to say the least. You can even say the opposite. They're cold and in some ways even hostile. It's peace. We don't go to war with each other. But Israelis don't visit Egypt. Egyptians don't visit Israel, and so forth with the Jordanians. So we as an organization, we wanted to learn from the lessons of history that peace is doesn't always become warm and between people to people. And we said, okay, on the political platform, we want to build a social platform, a people-to-people platform. So we established an organization in which we brought dozens of Arabs from the Abraham Accord countries to Israel, from Israel to the Abraham Accord countries, programs in which we study together our shared values, our familiar holidays, we also study about anti-Semitism and Holocaust to a bit explain the context in which Israel was established. Because in some countries in the Arab world, the Holocaust in the good situation isn't known at all, and in the worst situation is known to be a complete lie. So we're trying to bridge the gaps through knowledge and education, and just to create real and warm connections between people, and that's what we're here for. So I said enough. We'll now continue to our more important speakers. I think we'll start today with Fatima. Fatima is our Director of Gulf Affairs for Sharaka Organization. She's also an author. Thank you, Fatima. Yesterday she gave me her book. Finally, I'll be able to read it. And an athlete. So Fatima, take it from here.
Sure. Is it working? Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you all today. My name is Fatima. I'm from Bahrain. My story started with a coincidence and curiosity. I've always been curious to know more, to know about the land, which is only like 2 hours flight from our country. But it's so isolated that, oh, that's scary. Yeah.
It's everywhere.
A flash flood. It's okay. Yeah.
Al got it at the same time.
It scared Mariam. It's okay.
Reminds me of the Middle East.
I'm
No,
coming from a
thank you.
battlefield, and this is like
So, Israel have always been isolated from us. We don't know much about it, and we only hear one narrative. So I wanted to hear the other narrative. I wanted to see the reality. I wanted to meet people. So thankfully, Sharaka was established after the Abraham Accord, and they invited me. The moment we landed and went to Tel Aviv, a complete stranger stopped me asking, "Can I ask you a question? Where are you from? Bahrain or Dubai?" He knew immediately, because of all the fuss happening because of the Abraham Accord in the news, that we were from that countries. And I answered Bahrain, Dubai, and he was like, "Welcome. We've been waiting to have peace with Arabs for a long time. If you tell me this like 10 years ago, I won't believe you that I would be welcomed by a stranger in their land, happy to see me there." I didn't believe that. But people were so warm, so welcoming, so friendly, full of love. And I met Israeli Arabs, Israeli Jews, Druze, Christians, Bedouins. I met Palestinians. And all of them shared the same message, that the only thing that they wanted is peace. They don't want war, they don't want conflict. That narrative we don't get to hear back home. We hear that Jews want to kill Muslims, Muslims want to kill Jews, and they want to be an instant conflict. But that wasn't the reality. Of course, nothing is perfect. There is people that actually choose that, but that's what I saw from majority normal people just living their lives and wanting to just live, have dreams, have goals, practice their religion, dream, travel. So I found myself that I actually found a mission and a purpose. I went with just curiosity, wanting to explore a country and meet people. I left that land with a mission that I actually want to advocate for peace and be the bridge between Muslims and Arabs and people in that land. And that's what I've been doing for the past few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima. Yeah, she deserves it. We'll continue with Mariam. Mariam, here on my left, is a Christian Lebanese who was born in Lebanon but moved to Israel in a young age. Her father was a commander in the SLA, the Sovereign Lebanese Army. She'll brief about it in a moment, but it's basically the last army that fought Hezbollah, the terrorist group, on Lebanese lands. So she has a very fascinating perspective of understanding both Lebanon and Israel, being part of them both. And I think her perspective is more relevant than ever. So, Mariam, share with us.
Hi, I'm Mariam. I'm a Lebanese Israeli. And I don't know how many of you are actually familiar with the fact that there is an ongoing war currently on a Lebanese soil unfortunately. So quick history lesson, just to give you the context of my story. In the 70s, the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, was kicked out of Jordan because they tried to overthrow the king to Lebanon. They changed the population of Lebanon from a Christian majority to Muslim majority, and with other reasons created a civil war that affected not only the Lebanese, but they were fighting Israel from Lebanon as well. In the south, where I'm from, south of Lebanon, it's the periphery of Lebanon. So we were not only oppressed, but also we didn't have any protection because the Lebanese army wasn't, it was back up north fighting the civil war. So we didn't have any way to protect ourselves. And we asked help from Israel. And that's how the Southern Lebanese Army was created, that my dad was a commander at. So he fought terrorist organizations such as the PLO and other branches, and later on Hezbollah, which unfortunately we see how he managed to hijack the country today. In 2000, when Israel withdrew from southern Lebanon, we had to flee because Hezbollah gave us two options. Either we stay and get killed in our beds, or we leave the country forever and never come back. So we had to flee to Israel, thinking it's going to be for a week or two until, Lebanon gained control over the territory, which never happened. And 24 years later, we are still in Israel. So my community, I was 5 back then when this happened. My community managed to integrate and assimilate into the Israeli society. Obviously, we went through a lot of difficulties due to this change, but we managed to, I managed to grow up very much Israeli and very much Lebanese. So at school, I spoke Hebrew with my friends, and I celebrated Hanukkah and Passover. And then at home, I spoke Arabic and celebrated Christmas and Easter. And obviously, I taught my friends what's real hummus is, and that's the best cuisine in the world, is the Lebanese cuisine. Hopefully, you all agree with me on that. Having this duality and growing up in this multiculturalism environment allowed me to have a very unique point of view, not only on the Lebanese and Israeli point of view, but also on the Middle East in general, because I'm an Arabic speaker, and of course, I understand the nuances in the region. And I knew from a young age that I will be a bridge and a messenger between cultures, people, religions, educating people on how beautiful the Middle East is and how we all just want to live together. And our diversity and our, cultures, they are amazing, and we learn from each other every day. And that's why I joined Sharaka, actually, because due to the Abraham's Accords, that I am praying for Lebanon to be the next country to have peace with Israel, I was able to meet amazing people from other countries in the Middle East that I never knew that we share the same values and same point of view. Like me and Fatme, we are the same person in a different, body. And I never knew that, because in Israel, we are kind of cut off from the rest of the Arab world. We can't visit, we can't talk to people from other countries. As Noam said, it's very hostile, people are very hostile toward Israelis. So that's why I am advocating for peace, and I am hoping that it's going to be the last war between Israel and Lebanon, because the moment we eliminate extremism and radicalism, which is represented by all these terrorist organizations operating in the Middle East, I believe we stay with the moderate voices like ourselves that actually want to live together. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue with Dr. Khuzai. He's a professor in the international relationships in Bahrain and a political consultant. So Ahmed, give us, first of all, your personal view and also a bit of perspective from an academic, geeky perspective on this whole issue.
I'm with my crowd today. First of all, thank you for having us today. It's a pleasure to be amongst you and to have the chance to share. As Noam said, my name is Ahmed Kuzai. Just like Fatima, I come from Bahrain. As a political consultant, we'll keep that aside. We'll talk about the professor side, the geeky side. I'm into research, and this particular conflict has always been my focus, my choice of study. But again, as a researcher, it's not easy to just go through whoever wrote everything before me. I had to see for myself what's going on, for me to understand, to get context. It's not a geometry thing. It's a human relation kind of conflict. So the Abraham Accords gave me that opportunity to meet with people that we were not allowed to talk to. Prior to that, it was outlawed. It was forbidden for us. So to get that opportunity, actually, I had to take on it, and thanks to Sharaka, I managed to do that. And it gave me the element of the human nature, of the human touch, of how Israelis in particular, not just Jews, because when we say Israelis, we're talking about 20% Arabs, we're talking about the Jews, we're talking about within the Arab context, we're talking about Bedouin, Muslims, Christians, and so on. These kind of relationships give me a better context of what's going on, that Israelis, just like any other people on this planet, have dreams of their own, have concerns of their own. People care about security, others care about education, others about health, just like any other community. From there, I was able to see what we have in common. We never worked on common issues with them. Like today, we're talking about the environment. We're talking about the desert tech that Israel owns, but we have a problem with water in the Middle East. That's the biggest problem we're going to face over the coming years. That being said, let's talk about the ongoing war. It seems like it's a never-ending war, but after the Accords, we're talking about creating a new club for new formation of allies that are pro-peace, while there's another camp that's against peace. And from there, we could talk later on about what's happening exactly and how we could solve it, hopefully. Thank you.
We'll continue with Yusuf. Yusuf is our Morocco director in Sharaka. He was an entrepreneur. And please share with us your story, Yusuf.
Sure. So again, very happy to be here with you, and thank you for hosting us for today. So my name is Yusuf El Azari. I'm from Marrakesh, Morocco. As a matter of fact, Morocco is unique, and by somehow how they created a sort of peace within the society between majorities and minorities in terms of religion. And we are unique in that, like humbly speaking, in a way that we kind of became like the only Arab countries that has a judicial rabbinic law in its own constitution, making like that manages the Jewish community within our society, and that created the biggest community of Jews in the Arab world. Like we are roughly like 2,500, 3,000 people that are still living in Morocco, and they have all their ecosystem in Morocco, meaning that they have their own court, their own synagogues, and of course their own spaces when they can practice and their own faith. But this didn't prevent us from getting more polarized as a society, in a way that we got an imported culture of people trying to kind of demonize Israel, demonize the Jews from a religious perspective, and we were victim of very weird interpretations that kind of dehumanized the Jews in Morocco. Of course, we have a good leadership that protects that, but in the same time, what can you do to a global propaganda that tries to polarize the public opinion? So to my surprise, when I first visited Israel, it was something very crucial in my life, because for the first time I get to see the Israelis living in their own society, and they are not just Jews. we are talking about more than 20% of the Israeli society that they are Arabs. You know, maybe Miriam not practically Arab, but at the same time it's an Arab-speaking person, and at the same time we didn't know of its existence of its community. So coming back to Morocco, I felt the moral obligation that I need to share my experience when I first went there, that I need to tell the people that the propaganda is real and that there are a lot of problems going on right now in the Middle East, and it's time to go and explore by ourselves what's happening and what we can do about it. So yeah, thank you so much for coming again.
Thank you. We'll continue to now another round of questions, which I will ask the participants, and then we'll open it to questions and answers. So I think we'll start with Fatima. Fatima is part of a very small group of people who saw the raw footage of the October 7th massacre. It wasn't published, although a lot of us saw many of the videos. It wasn't all published to the whole public, and just to a couple of diplomatics, journalists, and people, and specific group of people. And Fatima was one of them. So Fatima, if you can please share us, how was it to watch the raw footage of the October 7th massacre and your perspective as a Muslim woman on what happened in that day?
Sure. So I watched that, I don't know what to call it, documentary, raw footage of horrific scenes. It was very hard, but very important for me as a Muslim and Arab to watch, because people either were celebrating those horrific acts or saying it's a lie, Hamas didn't do that, the Israeli government did that. But for me as a Muslim and Arabic speaker, when I saw the videos, they speak clear, fluent Arabic, using verses from Quran, that using the name of the God I believe in, saying Allahu Akbar. Now, whatever you believe in, when you hear Allahu Akbar, you know immediately something bad is going to happen next. They used it that way. They said Allahu Akbar and then took children from their beds with their pajamas. They killed their parents in front of them. Children were 10 years old, crying, seeing their parents die in front of them, getting killed. I saw all of that. And it breaks my heart, because in Islam, we have set of rules that the Prophet and Islam set. If you ever decided to go to war, whatever reason for, that you have not to cross those rules. One of them is you can't kill a woman, you can't kill a child, you can't kidnap any civilian as a hostage, you can't harm a dog, you can't harm a tree. So what Hamas did that day, they broke all those rules, and they say that in the name of Islam, in the name of God that I believe in. And I don't think any religion will accept this horrific acts, but they ticked all the boxes. They did all the bad things that Islam can't accept. So it's important for me and my voice to advocate that and amplify my voice and my friends' voices, that this is not the Islam that we believe in and we know. And I grew up knowing, and we saw it in our countries. Yeah.
Thank you, Fatima. I think it's hard to understand how important her voice is, because nowadays people, it's just black and white. There are people who say, we support October 7th massacre completely, oh, nothing happened there. Or the other side who says, of course, everyone thinks it's terrible, everyone with reason, but hearing a moderate Muslim voice sharing that this is not my Islam and there's a different perspective from a religion, from my religion, is so important. So thank you, Fatima. I think we'll continue, let's continue with Mariam. Mariam, basically, like I said, she lives both of those lives from Lebanon. She has family in Lebanon, but also family in Israel. And I think it's important to hear your perspective. How is it to live that kind of life, which you feel bad for both of the sides, and what does the future unfold for Lebanon?
Yeah, so my family, my extended family is still in southern Lebanon, and I live in northern Israel. So it's a battlefield on both sides, unfortunately, for the last year. On the 8th of October, after we managed in a way or another, to understand what was going on the 7th of October, Hezbollah decided to start a war to, help Hamas on the other side, taking a country into a war that they didn't want and they didn't ask for. And I don't know how many of you actually knows the situation in Lebanon before this war. Like, Lebanon was literally dealing with economical crisis, political crisis, social crisis, especially after Corona. The country is a shipwreck. So taking this and starting a war was something that no one imagined, like who can actually take such a decision? Of course, Hezbollah did. And fortunately, my family, the Christian villages actually are not affected because there is no Hezbollah bases there. They don't operate within Christian or Sunni population or Druze population in Lebanon, so they operate mostly in the Shiite population. So my family is in a way protected, but of course, as a terrorist organization, they are able to operate around the village, and if they want, they can actually hurt the civilians if they see that it can work for them. So this is what, for me, I've been dealing with this, like thinking about my family and thinking about the innocent people that are paying the price, because unfortunately in a war, casualties are part of it, and we are all paying this huge price. And on the other hand, northern Israel, again, a battlefield. So for the last year, sirens, missiles, people from my city were killed by the missiles, and actually one of my community, a Lebanese, was killed due to the missile. So imagine, he ran away from the war in Lebanon because of Hezbollah, and then he was killed by a Hezbollah missile 24 years later. This is just sad to even think about it. So for me, I am praying every day that this war at least allow us to get rid of these, terrorist organizations, so the countries actually can talk to each other and can have agreements with each other, and hopefully this will be peace agreements. So this is the situation in the last year. Yeah.
Thank you, Mariam. I think we'll finish this first round, the second round, with Ahmed. Ahmed, we all know the Abraham Accords were signed in 2020. We had the agreements. It was the end of Trump's administration, and then there were 4 years of a Biden administration. And basically, although we saw the Accords getting a bit warmer, the October 7th war stopped it completely, and now we're looking to the future and trying to understand what's going to happen with the Accords. So what does the future unfold to the agreements? Will we see other countries joining? What about Saudi Arabia? Everyone's talking about some kind of agreement there. I'd love to hear your take on that.
Now, just like anything else in life, it has ups and downs. The Accords are as well. And the biggest test for the Accords was the war that happened on October 7th. Everybody said that's the end of it. And even people who are hopeful, at best, said it will continue, but in an empty way. It won't take us anywhere. Although reality says that economically, the bilateral trade got affected by only 4%, and the military partnering, or basically between the Abraham Accords countries, is going as good as. What's going to happen next? And your question about Saudi Arabia is, it's not an easy answer to put on the table. There are many things at stake. Are they willing to? Yes. But they won't do it without an exchange of benefits. Israel wants it to happen, to get access to the region, while at the same time Saudi Arabia don't want to jeopardize their own security in return. So that's what's holding it back from getting signed today. It will take time until both reach agreements and happens. Of course, the war won't make it easy. The war has to be over first for it to go to the next step. Who might join next? We're talking about countries like Oman, Pakistan, Indonesia maybe, Libya had talks. It will take some time, but steadily. It's not going anywhere. It will go forward in a steady way, not as people expect it to be all flowers and daisies. It has its ups and downs. That's politics. So yeah.
Thank you, Ahmed. I thought about it now. Yusuf, I want to hear your take about what's going now in the West. We saw, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what happened in Amsterdam last week. Are you familiar? There were riots against Jews in Amsterdam. And we see two different versions of Islam. One that is emerging in Europe and maybe in some ways in America, and one that is still in the Middle East, has its roots over there. What's the difference? How is the one that we see in the West a bit more radical? Why did it happen? Can you share us your take about this?
I think the Arab countries were victims of extremism themselves, and they were very aware of that, and they did a lot to to combat it within their own societies. But this is exactly what Europe didn't understand, is that by giving spaces and giving spiritual spaces to religious people, we need to understand that without monitoring the content, extremism will take on, and they will find a way, like a fire, to touch many audiences as possible. So, answering that question, Noam, I saw that extremism in Europe found its way through innocent people who were very simple and were very curious about Islam, but because there is no monitoring of the content, they were victim of people brainwashing them into a sort of like one-way kind of spirituality, which is that we are the best religion and everyone is in the wrong side. In Morocco, we did a lot of things like to combat this kind of extremism, which is we monitored the content within the mosques, and that we made sure that there is no hateful prayer within any spiritual space all over the kingdom. And I think in order to Europe to be politically correct with religious minorities or majorities, they kind of told them, you are on your own, you have your own spaces, just don't do any trouble. And I think that's a problem. Also, you can understand Europeans as well, because Islam is not their, like, let's say, predominant religion. So they felt a huge retaliation from the Muslims themselves, like, how can you teach us about our religion? So monitoring was not really a very simple thing to do. But in the same time, America did great, actually, Noam, about that. Like, we brought to Morocco the black Muslim, some representative of the black Muslim community. And to be honest with you, that's one of the coolest versions of Islam I've ever seen. Very inclusive, no hatred, and they are very like integrated in their own society here in America, and they believe that's a case to study.
Thank you, Yusuf. I think let's open it now to questions and answers. We're here from the Middle East, bringing our perspective. We'd love to talk about whatever you want and answer your questions.
Well, I just would like for you to introduce yourself, because everyone else introduced themselves but you. So I just want to hear some more about you.
So sometimes I do it, but I don't know, it just didn't come out of me this time. So I'll do it. Thank you for asking. So my name is Noam. 2 years ago, I was still an officer in the IDF. And after resigning from the army, I started being a businessman, especially in the Arab world. I went through the Arab world and did as much as I can cooperations with Arab partners, because I believed this is one of the best ways to do it, like direct business between Jews and Arabs, and you know, money talks to everyone. So who can be, if we succeed, everyone will be happy. And a couple. At October 7th, 2023, like every other Israeli citizen, I woke up to the sirens and alarms, and I opened my phone, and I saw that there are Israeli hostages getting captured and taken to Gaza, and that there's a massacre happening in the Gaza envelope. And I took my car and drove there as fast as possible. I had a pistol on me, so I said, okay, maybe I'll be able to fight and save lives. And unfortunately, like many others, I saw the complete bloodshed that occurred there. Children, elderly, women, and men were massacred. And you know, they all were questioned. Are you Jewish? Bullet in the head. Muslim? Bullet in the head. Christian and Hindu? So on. The terrorists of Hamas didn't differ between religion, race, gender, and age. Everyone they saw, they killed. And opening parentheses, do we say that in English? A couple of days ago, I was planning my business trip to Saudi Arabia. We had a feeling an agreement is about to be signed, and Israel and Saudi Arabia, which is basically Judaism and Islam, will come to real conciliation, and we were really excited about that. And going back to October 7th, I had an aha moment, which I understood. The whole mastermind plan behind October 7th was to cancel that agreement, to bring war instead of peace. And in that moment, I said, I'm going to put all my businesses aside. They were successful and working, and I said, I'll give them to my partners. And the moment I'll have an opportunity to just dedicate my life to peace, I'll join. And Sharaka was that opportunity. And I'll say one last sentence about that. I think the only real revenge is peace. Like, if they try to cancel peace, the only way, I agree with Mariam, first we need to eradicate the extremists as much as possible. You can never do it completely. But after we finish that, we can't just finish with war. The real revenge has to be bringing peace between the nations, people to people, living warmly and in friendship together. And I'm dedicating my life to that. Hopefully it will work. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, my name is Marty, and I'm involved here. I'm Jewish, and I'm a gay man as well. I'm wondering, if you did a future projection of 10 years from now, what do you see the Middle East looking like? And is what you see is that reality as well. And how do you get there?
I see all of us having, all the countries in the Middle East having a peace agreement. That's my naive point of view, my pink glasses. And having some kind, I don't want to say like the European Union, but this would be, the ideal thing that we all dream of in the Middle East. So like a collaboration and a whole, Middle East that people actually can travel together, do business together, and hopefully no more wars, which is the most important thing for me personally.
I'll just add one thing. The Middle East region with Israel, Bahrain, UAE, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, we have so much potential, so much. If we got to the point that we all get together and have business deals, the tech, we would take over the world, I would imagine. The Middle East will be like better than what like the collaboration between the Europe countries, and I think we can get to that point. Hopefully in 10, 20 years, but I think more peace deals with the help of the US administration and facilitating it. I think that's the way, yeah.
Can I do a follow-up question to Ahmed about that? Because the political angle, partly the colonialism established the countries of the Middle East as we know them now, right? So that is partly by design why you're not cooperating, right? And so how do you overcome that?
I'll just answer Morty's question in a nutshell. Okay, better?
Yeah.
Okay. We are today at the crossroads. It's either it goes very well or goes very bad. It's either we're going to have Third World War or we're going to have world peace. So those 10 years are going to be vital and what will decide it is what's happening today with this war. Because the war is going to be over one day. How are we going to handle the day after is what's going to determine that. Are we going to be more vicious or are we going to be more understanding? And I'm talking by all sides. Is Iran willing to sit today on a table and talk, or are they willing to establish more proxies, more militias, and go down that path? So there's no easy answer for what you're saying. Regarding your extremely complicated question, that makes total sense. I would say that normally I could answer that in 4 hours, but here I try to make it, or to dilute it a little bit. So that design was, I'm not going to say it's outdated, but it could be outsmarted. Example, the colonial Britain, the main reason why they left the Middle East, not because we were strong enough or because the freedom fighters did a good job by kicking them out. They had a lower house session in the, I think it was 68, 65, and they were discussing their budgets, and they found out they don't have enough to feed their own people, let alone feed the colonies. So they decided to withdraw, including from my own country, Bahrain. Playing on that same path, today, how does Great Britain looks like? How does Italy looks like? How does the United States of America looks like? Right? So people like Saudi Arabia are playing a major role. The flip of powers. 50 years from today, or 50 years ago, would you be able to tell anybody that Iran, the progressive, the beautiful, the outgoing, would be what it is today? No one would. I mean, if you know any Persian people, they are the most alive civilization on this planet. They have the best food, one of the best food. Culture, music, they love life for what it is, just like Israelis are, just like all of us are. But look at them today, oppressed. So, and Saudi Arabia, what they used to be, today, I mean, it started a while ago, but today, you can't recognize it. I haven't been to Saudi for 20 years, and then after that, when I did, I couldn't recognize it myself. So there you go. That's our way out. A new way of thinking, a new way of dealing. If you sit on a table, you could sit while being the weak person and lose, or being the strong person and engineer your plan in a way, in a such that you could compete. You could give them something more. Maybe that design that you spoke about was targeted towards something. How about you give them a cake and a carrot with a juice box, along with whatever on top of what they wanted, and you do what you want at the same time. So there is a way around it if you have smart people. I hope that answers it in less than 4 hours.
It's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Dave, and I'm part of Unity here. And I have family in Israel. But one of the things I heard you all talk about, and of course I'm sure you have the magic answer to this, which has to do with the power of the extremists, particularly religious-related extremists on all sides. And in my years, what I've noticed was I would see people reaching out like you are. There have been different groups over the years, over the decades. But what I see more and more lately is the extremists taking power. And I saw it happening elsewhere in the world. I saw it happen in the Middle East, and it's been happening in this country too. And I don't know what else to do but affirming our sense of belief in the goodness within each religion, to not allow the extremists to be the example. Is Hamas what Islam represents? And in many eyes, it is. And I think it's really important. And the extremists, I don't even remember the names in Israel, the Jewish extremists, they have this ideals which violate the basic spiritual principles. And what do we do? What can we do to be affirming the truths that we understand and we believe, and not letting them, which they've been very successful, hijack it? So what's the magic answer? Or your thoughts, at least.
So just to rephrase your question, what do we think that people should be doing to just encourage more moderate voices in order, to fight these extremists?
Yeah.
I think that for me personally, first thing, education. I don't feel that we have enough education in schools, in universities, about this matter. So the extremists and radicals are rising. Their voices are louder, unfortunately, and they are most of the time not afraid to use violence and any way to intimidate the other side. And the other side feels that he is obliged to, keep things calm. So there is there is no problems and no more violence. So in my opinion, first things, education, and also understanding what is radicalism, and then try to stop it, not to be afraid of it. So, people walking around with Hamas or Hezbollah without understanding what the manifesto of these groups, not supposed to be legitimized at all. Symbols of, mass killings, violence, hate speeches, not supposed to be legitimized. These things are we are losing it in a liberal world because we are all about super liberals. Everyone's supposed to have the right to say its opinion, and we are losing it. We're not stopping this radicalism to, just control our spaces. Maybe you guys can add on this.
I hope I'll not resonate too much of what Mariam said, because I think she said it perfectly, but maybe from at least my point of view, 2 points that I think of. One is, I think the moderates were too nice for too long. It's a bit what Mariam said, but I just like to rephrase it. We need to be a bit less nice. There are limits. Also in liberal democracies, you can't talk about, if you're a supporter of an extremist terrorist group which supports killing children, no. There's no freedom of speech for that. And I think that's something we saw in the West. By the way, we don't see it in I think they can talk about it firsthand, because we don't see it in those Arab moderate countries. They don't give any space for extremism. They take it the furthest you can. You say something radical, boom, jail. So I'm not saying take it is there, but I'm saying we need to be a lot less nicer. That's point number one. Point number two, they're a bit paradoxical, but I think they do connect, is do respect them. Do listen to them, understand them, take them serious. Some parts of, I think, how radicalism appears is not listening enough to those parts of society in 2 ways. First of all, not listening, just ignoring them. They're just a minority until, boom, they're the majority. And second is we don't really believe what they're saying. When they say, I'll say my point of view, when they say free Palestine from what? Does it mean kicking out all the Jews? Or when they say, the Jewish extremists say, let's build another temple on Al-Aqsa Mosque. Wait, they're serious. Let's not just kick their words out of the house. So again, listen to them, understand them, take them seriously, and like I said in the beginning, a bit less nice, a bit less freedom of speech, and that's at least my point of view.
I think another intractable problem in achieving peace has to do with the desire of many Palestinian people to return to their traditional lands. So I'm curious what you all think is the answer to that stumbling block, let's call it, to long-lasting peace.
I couldn't hear the question properly.
Sorry, can you speak in the mic? They can hear you better.
I think one of the, maybe I'll try to rephrase it, or it's the Palestinians and want to return to their land. That's part of the big problem we are in. What's your take about this? Okay. Right? I think that's basically the question.
I have to state one fact that I even tell the Palestinians whenever we talk to them, depending on the audience. Because whenever we talk about anything, they say, do you want to tell us how to do it? Or I say, no. Since I'm not from neither Palestine nor Israel, I have no say in that. I'm here to help. Yet, as an expert in this, my intake would be as such. First of all, you should know what you want. You should have somebody represent you well. Because today in the UN, just 2 days ago at the United Nations session, everybody was complaining on international media outlets saying that, yeah, the US has put it down. They vetoed the ceasefire. And while there's way much more behind that. Because who's negotiating with the international community in the United Nations are the PLO. They're not Hamas. So whatever they say, even if Israel agreed for a ceasefire, they are agreeing with who? Not with people with guns. So it's more complicated than it is. So going back to the right of return, I asked Palestinians myself, and it was on such a panel. It's not my place to tell you go for it or don't go for it, but I want to ask questions as a person of concern. Would you let go of your existing Western nationalities and go back? Would you sell everything and settle back home, or are you just talking about it? Everybody kept quiet. So yet again, it's not my place to say they should or they shouldn't, because it's a thing between two nationalities or two entities that I'm not a part of. But as a main question, because today you see most of them are abroad, including my own country. They became Bahrainis. So whenever I ask them, and they are closer to me, are you going back? They say, no, we're Bahrainis. I'm third generation Bahraini, so that's not my home. So I say, so what do you brag about the whole time, the right of return? For who? Because all of you guys are not first generation. So who's going to return? And what are you talking about? Is it a bargaining chip? For what? Because if we don't know what you want, how can we help you get there?
I think I'd like to add two more points. One is that I'm sorry. I lost my thought.
Okay. Yusuf has a thing to say?
No, it's fine.
Oh, so I recalled it. Okay, so one point is that, you know, again, I have a lot of sympathy to the Palestinian people, and I really think they're really, really suffering. And I think the suffer has to stop, and my heart is with them. But I do think they really have a problem of a real leadership. Like Ahmed talk about it from a really political point of view, but I'm also talking about from a moral point of view. There wasn't one Palestinian leader who had the ability to criticize October 7th massacre. It's not that hard. Okay, no problem. Say everything Israel did from that day on is terrible. Okay, let's go with that. But just criticize that day in which children were murdered and taken hostage. And I'm not saying this to demonize the Palestinian society. Of course, it's a lot more complicated than that. But in the end, I really think they have a big crisis of leadership, which I think the moment they'll be able to come up above it, things will change dramatically. And I'm praying for them to be able to bring that leader. I always tell my Palestinian, I have a lot of Palestinian friends, tell them, where's your Martin Luther King? Where's your Gandhi? Like, you're 100 years in this. Where's one leader where all the world will come around and say, wow, the Palestinians need to get their rights now because they're doing it peacefully, not violently. And I think that day, it's on record, but I think that day they'll kick ass. I'm sorry to say this here in the spiritual, but it still didn't happen, and I'm waiting for that day to happen. And the second point which is a historical point of view. And again, I'm not criticizing them, and they'll decide, like Ahmed said, and I'm not a Palestinian, although I have a lot of Palestinian friends, is, you know, how much grievance can you have in the present about the past? My whole family was exterminated in the Holocaust, all of it. Like from hundreds of people, just my grandfather survived. You know, if you would have reminded me every day, Germany, 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 we wouldn't have went anywhere. He started a new life and looked forward. And again, I'm not, and I know a lot of them are living it now, in present, but still, I think they like we as a human society should help them understand, okay, we need to compensate, we need to find ways to repair, but also, guys, you need to look to the future. Give us offers how to help you, not just always return to what happened 100 years ago and without any real possible solution to solve it. This is, at least, is my opinion. Again, I'm saying it in a humble way, with respect, and hopefully their leader will come and suggest their way to move forward.
Thank you. Any other questions? So I have 1, 2, 3, 10. I don't know how many. But first off, thank you all for being here. Sharaka, as I understand it, means partnership, correct? Right? So, and Noam, I'm a little bit wary of leaders, because if you look at the history too, India descended after Gandhi's death, after his assassination. We're still struggling here in the United States after Dr. King with racism and subjugation of people of color. And we have our own issues with anti-Semitism and Islamophobia here in the United States. Period. Right? And we've just elected someone who is separating the majority of us and claiming a white Christian majority, right? And a lot of the anti-Semitism and Islamophobia comes from the leaders who call for that. So my question is, why I was so excited to say yes to you to be here, because from what I've seen and what I've read about you and listened to you, you are here about a solution, about a partnership. And my personal feeling is that this is how it's going to change, with people in relationships like this, and how, rather than the leaders, because I don't trust them. I think it has to come from us, right? And we are all leaders. We need to turn leadership on its head and make the common people the leaders. And so thank you for doing this. And how can we support you? How can we create more of this? How can we, sitting here in our little isolated, cozy United States, which hasn't had a war on its shores in a long time, be supportive to people in the Mideast, so that we also hold a vision for a new Mideast, right? I hold that vision for us. So how can we do more?
By willing to. The willingness to do so will make us sit in such settings, think together, and come with small plans. Those small plans put together will be a mega plan, which will create the change. While you were talking, I just remembered an article I just wrote 2 weeks ago, majority dominance. And just like your question earlier about the Middle East and the colonialism as well, it's the same thing. Once we know what we want, we'll understand how to get out of it. Yes, yet still it's part of a system. It's a majority. You have a ruling president, you have 2 houses, you have like the mayorships, and it dilutes down. But from the grassroots, from the other end, that's what makes the difference. It's not just upscale, downscale. So if you have enough or proper planning for grassroots, then it goes both ways. They want to do something, but if you have enough people to protest it or to oppose it, they can't do anything. They're there for the votes. They're not there to make things happen. That's my answer to it.
I'll also add to this 3 short points. Point number 1, how you can help us is, I'll start by a word about America. We came here because we see America as the leader of the world. And we want you to be compassionate about yourself, first of all, as Americans. No, really. This is still the country of which millions of people from around the world, from our region and everywhere, they don't go to China, they don't go to Russia, they don't go to Europe. If they can, they come to America. Because it's exactly what you talked about. Here, people can be people, and it's more, the people are more than the government. That's at least my perspective. And coming back to what I said previously, also part of putting limits to the radicalism is also listening to them and being compassionate also to them. I'll say, for example, in the end, we're not getting into your American politics, but we do thank the Trump administration for bringing this peace that wasn't possible. And you know, the bit special characteristics he has brought to completely rethinking of how you can deal with the Middle East. No one thought about it. For decades, they said, no peace can happen just until you bring in the Palestinians. And boom, he made something completely different that I think will also help the Palestinians in the end. So who knows what will come out of this administration. So, and from that, coming to my second point, we need you as Americans to push for the Abraham Accords. It's good for you and it's good for us. And whatever you can do for sharing our story, sharing your views on this topic, we think it will practically really help us, but it will also turn down the winds of extremism here in America and all the fight about it through these kind of just great peace agreements. Third, I'll say just a really short word about our organization. In the end, we're a movement. We represent just part of it. There are hundreds of people behind us with dozens of projects throughout the Middle East and the projects, as I said, in Europe. We're doing everything together to just make it a real warm peace. If any of you think you can help us in any way, we have Sarah Rips here, our US coordinator. You can contact her in the end of the event, and we need your help to make it possible. Those projects we do to just bring people together. And again, thank you so much for hosting us. It was a wonderful conversation with all of you, and we're happy to be here, and we'll stay for a couple more minutes. So thank you.
Okay. I know that you don't live in the San Francisco Bay Area zip code. However, if you're ever in this area, this community, Unity San Francisco, is so open to have you join us. And I hope you consider that.
Thank you.
If I can take a minister's privilege and offer us a closing prayer?
Of course.
Great. So we talk here all the time about a world that works for everyone, no exceptions and no exclusions, period. And we also talk about that there is only one God, one of us, and that we all are the same. We are human beings created in the image and the likeness of that one God. So we come together in this moment from different places around the planet, from different faith traditions, and from different life experiences. But we know the truth within us, that there is something that connects us, and that thing that connects us is powerful, is all power, is all love, is all serenity and peace, and all that there is. So we open ourselves in this moment to that truth and that wholeness. And in that oneness, we see a new solution emerging, arising, and encompassing everyone, so that we may live in our lifetime, in this world, in this Mideast, in this planet, on this planet, filled with peace, serenity, partnership, and abiding love. So it is, because so we see it, and so it is, because we work for it. Amen. Thank you.